with basically update on the plans, the studies that are being done?
Yeah, so the only other formal thing you'll need to do tonight is decide if you want to establish a regular meeting or when you want, at least when you want to have your next meeting. And eventually, if you're going to do it on any kind of a regular basis, it would be good to try to keep it around the same date and time. But it really, at this point, is up to you when you want to have your next meeting. If you want to wait for some of those reports to come in, or that's the only other formal thing that you'll need to do tonight.
Oh yeah, why don't we hear from Philip and Mike?
Sure. Well, my background in water primarily is I live on Stucker Mesa, and about 10 years ago, the state came by one day and said that you guys have too many taps in your company and you have to become a public water company, and that was a big undertaking. So I got involved in water. We needed an ORC. We couldn't find one, so I took the test and ended up designing and building a water treatment plant up on Stucker Mesa. And as a consequence, have sort of developed an interest in small public water systems, and people keep calling me to help them out. And so I've been doing that over the years. I was honestly surprised. Mary called and asked if I wanted to be on this board. And I thought, well, I'm not a citizen of the town. Ultimately, I won't be voting in some strategy, but I have an awful lot of experience with managing small companies. And the town, as you know, has had some issues with the sanitary survey, and there's been some operational issues that, from my perspective, as an outsider, could probably be tightened up a little bit. The second issue is that I've gotten involved in these little small companies that are contiguous with Paonia, and I'm interested in seeing that they somehow get treated probably in some fashion in this. So other than that, I'm here mostly as a person that's run water treatment plants, very familiar with the CDPHE. I'm interested in plant operations. I'm interested in GIS mapping. I'm very interested in water supply modeling. So I guess I consider myself to be sort of the engineering geek. And as far as a political axe to grind, I really don't have any. Water systems are all the small systems in the North Fork that I deal with, and a number over in Crawford. They're all struggling right now. A lot of water supplies are dwindling. The drought is beginning to take a huge impact. My assessment is that Paonia probably, I don't know what your supplies are. I'm very interested in looking at the engineering reports. But I think the supplies are going to be critical in the future, and that's going to really impact everything else that you do. So that's mostly my interest. I don't have a political policy a goal at all. I'm just interested in good engineering and good planning.
Mike,
Sounds great to me.
Yeah, I guess it's my turn. I live on Stewart Mesa Road, and I've been on the board of Stewart Mesa Water Company for 11, 12 years, in that order, 10 to somewhere 10 to 12. I could look it up if it was really important. And when this came out, I was talking with Dave Hers, who's the president of the board, and he volunteered me before I could volunteer him. So I come representing, my background is that I've been working with Stewart Mesa Water Company, and so I'm aware of the problems that we've had. My official training, I have an engineering, master's of engineering tagged with aerospace engineering, but I've spent 35 years working on a lot of very complicated systems ranging from hydraulic stuff to electrical stuff to lasers. And so I'm really good at looking at complex systems and seeing the components. I'm sure I'll learn a lot from Phil, but you know, I'm very interested in finding out more about the water system for Paonia and what instrumentation is there, because I know there's a lot of instrumentation abilities that we could automatically install. And you know, at the water plant, where the computer is, it would immediately tell you if you had a problem. And I'm just interested in finding out and trying to help define things to move forward on that would make the water system more viable and more sustainable. And that's kind of it, unless somebody's got questions.
So in other words, you just think the plants aren't really being utilized to their fullest potential at this point?
I wrote my version of what happened in 2019 and put together a big presentation that I was going to give at the library, and they were really looking forward to it and was going to tell everybody about it, and COVID struck. And basically what I did was all the information I could find and just did my engineering analysis of what it was telling me about the system. And I think I broke it down in a way that a lot of, you know, you don't have to be an engineer to understand it. So, you know, I just want to work with everybody on this board and come up with ideas that we can then turn into the town council and hopefully convince them they ought to do some of these projects.
Cool.
Is that presentation something you'd be interested in giving at some point?
I'd be glad to give it to you. It's, I've got everybody's email. I've got it in a PowerPoint. I can send it in PowerPoint or in whatever that other magic thing is, the 3 letters.
PDF.
Yeah, PDF.
I have
So whatever
it.
you guys, you have it.
Yeah, you gave it to me when we were going to present it at the board, and then, yeah.
Yeah. So I can send it out. Corinne's, if she's got it, she can send it out. Whoever wants to be responsible can take it. Can do that or not.
And then Thomas, I'm so used to you being part of the meeting that I wasn't even thinking, you know, why are you here? So
That's okay. Yeah, I think that as far as background, I too have an engineering degree, bachelor's of mechanical, and I never put it to good use. But I do have experience, hands-on experience running water systems, doing daily testing, repairs, and I kind of know the ins and outs of how these things work on a smaller scale. Paonia's system is vast, and I'm looking forward to getting to know the details about how it came to be and how it works, and hopefully finding some regions for improvement. But I do have a political axe to grind. My real motivation for being on this board is to hopefully bring justice and equitability to the billing and use structure of the water system, because I feel that I'm an in-town user. I am also a business owner. I own the building on the corner across from Don's. The Local Nomad is my business hostel, which we are currently closed, have been due to COVID. But I think that the billing structure is weighted heavily against out-of-town users and businesses, or actually not businesses even, but locations with multiple registered businesses in town. And that's just actually my motivation for doing most of what I do in town. It's something I've brought up a couple times, and I've never seen any movement from the town board. And so as part of my work here, I hope to figure out a more equitable billing system that can still supply the needs of the town, and hopefully can also encourage people to conserve water. Aside from the billing and I guess more demand side, it will be my interest rather than the supply side, I guess, that Phil was focusing on. A couple pet projects that I would like to see, or at least discuss, would be one is a gray water ordinance or a recommendation for maybe in town. I don't know about out of town, how that would apply, because generally, from what I've read, it's restricted to municipal boundaries, as well as rainwater catchment is doesn't require local action, but just kind of a community program, say, to make sure that people are leveraging what we have available to its full extent, and planning for future use as well. I think that there's certainly a lot of opportunity for improvement in what exists. And I attend almost every town meeting, so I'm fairly familiar with the progress that's been made in the past couple of years as far as tank upgrades, maintenance, shutdowns, and all the problems and hiccups that have come along, and the vast amounts of money that we've been throwing at it. And so I understand that there's a lot of really good work that's been done, and huge thanks to Travis for being on top of that stuff. But I know that there's still a long way to go as far as the distant future, and hopefully I can help to plan for that prudently and effectively. So that's me.
Well, if I read the ordinance correctly, it sounds like all of that can fall under our purview.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the sound of that. That's kind of unexpected to hear all that, but it's just thinking of my 18, 19 years here. I think a lot of that is very valid concerns and really great ideas.
Thanks. So,
Corinne, so I was kind of wondering, does anybody else want to say anything? Ask Thomas any questions? I'm sorry.
No.
But I had just a couple of things. One, I forgot to mention, I was a physician in my previous life. So I had, I retired and decided I wanted to become a farmer. I have to tell you, my previous life was a whole lot easier since I got involved in water. We have some engineering interest here, Tom, myself, and one thing I would like to do, if we, before the next meeting, if we could get with Travis and have some kind of a tour of the facilities, if that's feasible. I'm interested in, Travis's assessment of, what we've got. And I have read the engineering prints for the plant, and the town of Paonia water plants with the membrane system is quite upscale. So I think there are many good things in this, in the water treatment side of actually what's going on. But it would be nice to sort of figure out some sort of a shopping list of topics, because they're vast. There's demand side, supply side, engineering, CDPHE. By the way, I've developed a very good relationship with CDPHE, including the engineers that will be doing our next sanitary survey. And it's very important to make that relationship work. And I think, so I'll be interested in that as well. So I guess that my question is, do we need to each put a shopping list together? What kind of topics? I'm just curious about how we move forward with this committee. So during the month that we have before meetings, we can do some homework and do some studying. I guess I'd direct that to Tammy. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm probably in about the same position as you are. I don't exactly know, but I do like the thought of the idea of coming up with a list of things we'd like to see. For example, Corinne, do we have documentation for all 27 water companies, or is that some groundwork that would need to be done? Or would we just start by trying to incorporate some of the smaller ones and then work on that as we go?
So not all of the water companies have actual agreements. They're called water, it's loosely calling them a water company because they're not recognized as a water company. They're not actually incorporated. They've done no kind of any of the required stuff that you do to be formally recognized as a water company. Really, we only have a pretty loose history of what we don't even know why. There's no real good record as to why the town, other than some of the larger ones, why the town kind of pushed at the creation of some of these companies. There's no record that we've been able to find, nothing in the vaults or anything that kind of, only information I've ever heard is word of mouth from people that were around at that time and that are on the water companies who said the town just basically said, you're gonna do this and we're gonna put in this master meter and you're a water company. So we do have all the agreements for the ones that are existing compiled because we've turned those over to our town attorney. And so I can share those with the committee. But I think making a task list of what your priorities would be, it would be helpful because we're not going to be able, of course, to do all of these things at the same time. So if looking into one or two of those water companies as potentials for reabsorption into the town is a good starting point, then I can get with the town attorney and let him know that that is one of our priorities in the priority list that I'm working with him right now, and we can work on that while we're looking at the other things. The mapping of the water and sewer system and the other information from SGM should be forthcoming within the next week or two. So that will be data that we will be able to gather from SGM and supply to you as something else to review before the next meeting. And I don't have a final date, but we do have a tentative schedule with, oh shoot, I forgot his, Jacobson. I was going to say Jamie, it's not David Jacobson, to do a virtual tour of the plants. And with the smaller group water committee, we may be able to work that out with him. So if you wanted to physically go when we're recording the virtual tour, we might be able to do that. I can circle back and let you know what that schedule is when we finalize that with David. But that is in February.
Yeah, I was going to request being on that as part of the Public Works Committee. So I was going to see if maybe Bill and I could tag along for that as well. So I think that's a great idea. One thing that I don't know how pertinent it's all going to be to all of this, but there are many studies that have been done in the past. Just a few of them: the Wheeler feasibility report, the Cruise study of 2016. There was an analysis of water loss in 2003. There's also a big county study of the water availability in the North Fork area. So there are some other studies too, and I've read them all, but I don't know how important those are, if those are studies that you all have read or are familiar with. Or are we just going to try and mainly rely on the studies that are coming out that we're waiting on? So any of you
Are those studies available in electronic format, or how are they? I would be very interested in looking particularly at the water loss study and also any engineering stuff.
Yeah, the ones I just mentioned, I have copies of. I'd be happy to shoot them out to everybody if that would help Corinne at all. And then I think there are some others. Bill Bruner's pretty familiar with all those studies too, so he might, although he's not on the committee, he might have some thoughts on those, because he really pushed for a while for the board to look into those studies and not do any more studies. Of course, that we ended up doing some more studies, but yeah, I just don't know how valid, how current those studies are, how much we can rely on.
So the only thing that I would add is that, so I do have those also in electronic format. I think historical data is good data to have, but the system, the last time a study was done that the town reviewed and actually accepted, you're getting 20 plus years. And so the system has majorly changed since then. But, you know, our water sources are the same. Not all of that data is invalid. So we can absolutely send them out. My personal opinion, but not necessarily has to be the opinion of your committee, is that the one report that was completed and was dismissed by the then Public Works Director and Town Manager, as well as the Board of Trustees, that they said, no way, this is so off, it's not, and they didn't accept it. I don't know how much you would want to look into that one, but we can send them all out. Tammy, you've got them, I've got them. We can.
The Wheeler that you're talking about, the Wheeler study?
One of them. There's 2 Wheeler reports that were done 2 years apart. One of them was not accepted, one of them was.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, for my part, I'd love to see as much information as I could to start with, and if it's not, you know, if it's not pertinent or not valuable, I think that we'll probably be able to figure that out pretty quickly. For my part, I've been doing a little bit of outside background. I was gifted this book, Managing Water Rates and Finances, and it's a little bit dated, but it has some really good kind of big picture stuff. And I think that some of the results of what we have from existing studies, which some of which I've seen, I haven't seen all of these that you guys are talking about, but you know, a lot of the data points match up pretty well to what obviously other municipalities and water companies have been dealing with for forever. So yeah, as much as we can get, especially up front, and additional to any studies or map results or anything like that. I don't know. I remember asking about this in a meeting at one point, but if it would be possible to get anonymized data for actual use from individual meters. I looked it up, and there is a utility commission for the state that manages rights for those. So we might want to reach out to them and see what the limits are as far as what might be publicly available, or if this committee, like if we qualify as like a committee that might have elevated rights to something that the public might not have. That would be a question for Corinne and the board, I think, to answer as far as additional data, but really as much data as we can get, the better, you know.
I agree.
Okay, can I have a comment?
Please.
I think either Corinne or Tammy's going to send everybody the report that I put together. But one of the things that I saw, or one of the things I feel as a result of that report, and I talked about it in the presentation, is that we really need flow data. And what little I've seen in some of the engineering reports is they take flow data like 3 months in the summer. And that really doesn't tell you anything, because you need flow data year round, and you need a lot of it to look at. And yes, a drought's coming, and we've had droughts before, but it would just be interesting. One of the things that I think we need to do is get flow data out of the springs so that we can start having reliable data and to have in hand, so because you can't figure out how many taps you can have until you understand the flow and the seasonal, it changes over the year and it changes year to year, and because of the amount of moisture that comes down. And if you look at over the long term, the data, the temperature in the last 30, 40 years has been going up, and at the same time, the precipitation has been going down. And we need to be able to get in front of that, whatever that means. You know, I heard it stated early, not back when we had the water problem, the only problem we had was that we didn't have raw water storage. And I totally agree with that statement, except for how much raw water storage do you need? And then you got to say, well, what's the purpose of the raw water storage? Is it going to be just for when you get a leak that you can't find? Or is it going to be because, you know, drought's coming? Just getting that figured out is going to take a lot of effort. I'm done.
So I would think Travis would be the one to talk to about the water flow data. I don't know what he has, but one thing that I'm wondering about if how we can affect this is we have a tap moratorium and nobody can buy a tap. Nobody can subdivide, nobody can add on. I mean, I'm not even sure how long that moratorium has actually been in place, but that's one of my big concerns is what can we do to facilitate the removal, the lifting of that moratorium? And I don't know, Corinne, you might have some thoughts on that.
So the moratorium's been in place actually for, it may be exactly a year today.
No, I'm talking about like the out-of-town moratorium. I'm sorry, the out-of-town water tap moratorium, 5 taps a year.
Oh, right. Yes, that goes back. Yeah, it's been modified a couple of times, but that's 20 plus years old. So I think that, well, a big part of that, just in general, whether it's specific to modifying out of town and any kind of tap sales in town, is really going to be based on that infrastructure analysis and the system mapping. As far as water flow, we have the flow data chart that was included in the packet at the regular board meeting that we could send out, and that shows a monthly with the, and Travis has been working also on, building and modifying some spreadsheets and things so that he's always adding more data. He collects a lot more data than we ever see, absolutely. But so I can send that out as well. That has that monthly flow data as far as what water was. It's not comprehensive to what Mike's asking for though, because it doesn't, not all of the springs, what's pulling out of the springs, not all of that was being tracked throughout the year for different reasons. But I know that's something that Travis has been working on as well.
One short comment about Tammy and the out-of-town water companies. I was I was part of the lead. The Stewart Mesa Water Company got a grant to have an engineering survey done on our water system. And we got a lot of good information from that. And one of the things is a direct comment right now is information for Tammy on out-of-town water companies. They came back to us and I wrote the thing down. We got something like 79 taps and we got 76 in use approximately. And the engineering analysis came back and said, you can't issue any more taps because if you do, somebody's gonna flush the toilet and now somebody else ain't gonna have water in their shower. So it all depends on how big the pipes are and how much water you can get to all the places and how much pressure you want to put in the water. So out-of-towners need to, I would say from the town standpoint, the town would have to tell the out-of-towners they got to verify that they've got the piping system that can hold the additional water that they would use. And I've never heard anybody talk about what the average water user uses. And for Paonia, they need that all obviously in town, and I'm sure Travis has got that. But I don't know if, how many of the out-of-towners have that and or have shared it with the town. I'm done.
Cool.
Well, one question, it seems to me that we're kind of drilling down into finer points of water management and maybe overlooking the big picture here. So question for Travis, your SCADA system monitors all your incoming water. You have daily logs, right, of incoming for both clock tower and that plant's not online, but so you have linear data for what's coming into your plant, right?
Yeah.
Every day. So
yes.
So one can assume that the spring flows will fluctuate, but they would also change your incoming gallons per minute or million gallons on your incoming reports, right? I mean, you have a proxy already for what supply water is based on your SCADA analysis of what kind of finished water you're treating, right?
I spill a lot of my springs up at the spring boxes a lot of times throughout the year too. So, which is some of our springs, if we're not utilizing them, we have to dump those at the spring boxes because there's second degree holders that are, if we're not using them, they get the water.
Sure.
We have first priority on most of them, but there are a few that if we're not using them, I have to dump at the spring.
So that the water rights law is really an exquisite and essential piece of information that we really have to look at. Now, I would really enjoy that particular report, and because ultimately, as things, I did a lot of work in agricultural water in the Overland Ditch for a long time. Ultimately, those are sort of agricultural rights up there, and once you get into the priority system, it'll impact greatly what happens in terms of the amount of water that we can take and we can finish down here. So I think that's a real important piece. I had another question just for demand side. Does the town utilize smart meters? What kind of metering systems do you have in your meter pits? Do you have drive-by shooters where you drive and take your water readings? I mean, how do you manage your demand side?
Yeah, we got radio read meters. By the end of this year, we'll have all of them installed. There is still a few manual read meters that we've got in the system, but we are working on getting all of our system into a radio read system.
There's quite a bit of interest in the state, and there's also some money out there for even the smart meters that are connected to the cloud and are continuously monitoring, looking for leaks. And I mean, I think one of the things for demand side efficiency in the future is going to be wiring up all the demand side and looking for leaks, finding stuff early. So, in terms of things that, and usually when you're looking for grants, they're 2 to 3 years out, but there's a lot of money out there right now from what I see in efficiency improvements. And one of the things that I think we need to look at in this committee would be things we can do on the demand side. And one of those would be some sort of computerized management of looking for leaks and that stuff. I had one other question, I'll let you go. I understand, I have a lot of interest in SCADA systems and have recently installed some brand new ones and a couple of systems about, Travis, Cathedral and the Mad Dog. We just recently updated their SCADA systems. SCADA is, by the way, SCADA means supervisory control and data acquisition. It's a fancy word to mean computer control of, I can look at my plants on my iPad and see exactly what's going on at any time, 24/7. So the question is, what's your, and we could probably do this in another conversation, but what's your sense of your SCADA system? I understand it's being upgraded, or tell me about what's happening at the plant regarding that.
My lower plant, my 1 million gallon treatment plant, or the clock treatment plant, is the SCADA system is almost completed. They are working on the remote access currently, which is a lot more secure SCADA system at that lower plant than it is up at my upper plant. My upper plant does have a SCADA system that I can remote into also.
Are they cell phone based or cloud based or Allen Bradley units? What are they made of?
My lower plant is an Allen Bradley brace. The upper plant is internet based.
Well, we can talk about that later, but that's going to be key, going forward. So anyway.
So Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, weren't you looking at a couple of those like smart meters? Wasn't that part of a conversation at one point?
Say that again. I'm having a hard time hearing. I got the pressure behind me.
Oh, okay. Weren't you looking at getting some of those super smart meters, or the ones connected to the home, or you were talking about some meters? Again, this could be a conversation for another time, but weren't you looking at some of the smart meters, not just the remote reads, but the smart meters to test them out?
Yeah, that was one thing that we were working at. Corinne and I were working at, where and you can use our existing meters and it will shoot everything to town where you can read them you can continuously read them if you want, but it's through National Meter, and since the last year they've been really hard to be in touch with, because I think they're working from home also, but there was some antenna information and stuff that we had to do and post throughout town to get the directory to town.
Anybody else have any other just general comments or thoughts before we kind of try and wrap this up? So what I'm seeing is we all need to come up with like a shopping list. I think it was called a list of what we see as priorities for this group. Maybe that's something we could work on prioritizing at the next meeting. I don't know if we want to share those ahead of that meeting. It would be really hard to start prioritizing if we didn't know what they were ahead of time. So I don't know if you want to send them to me. I can send them out from there, whatever. I don't know. What would you suggest, Corinne? Any thoughts on
Sorry,
that?
I was muted. Yeah, so you can, if you want to send them out early, you can, and then I can work with you prior to your meeting to finalize a packet. Your packet schedule can be anything that you want it to be as well, and we'll publish a packet just like we do for a regular board meeting through our Muni meeting software. So my suggestion would be to decide the date for your next meeting and decide a deadline that you would want those submitted, so you can put them in a packet, and then everybody could see everybody's at once, and maybe merge them together and come forward with a plan for discussion at your next meeting.
Okay. You guys think you could have those in a couple of weeks? I think I could.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks.
Sounds good.
Yeah, go ahead and send them to me. You should all have my email. That way we don't have to burden Corinne with them right away. So she's got plenty enough to do.
If I may, because we are not at the town board, I believe that we can do a lot more collaboration over email, a lot more preparation. So I think that that's probably a good, at least for me, it's a good way to do prep. So if we want to get a wish list, you know, I kind of started, I just briefly went over mine without too much detail, but like maybe a have to, like to, you know, wishes in the stars maybe, and the deep future lists, and then just by email. You know, we don't have to worry about open meeting laws, I don't think. If Corinne, you have any input in that regard?
No, just for the ordinance, it just you can email back and forth and communicate that way. Just anything that any formal recommendations you want to go to the board would need to be discussed and done in your open meeting, and then formally done to go to the board. Mhm.
Okay.
One quick point. I've actually had someone in the out of town group call me because they saw on the newspaper that I was on this committee, and they were really concerned about getting particularly any recommendations that we might develop for various ones, to get that out, quote, to the public, whatever that means. So I was really surprised, because it was, that was probably 2 weeks ago when I got the phone call, and I said, well, if I'd have it posted down out of the town, all of our stuff that we agreed upon. I'd have Corinne posted on how she posts everything else open to the public. But I said, I haven't even talked to all the other people on the board. I don't know what we're going to do. Oh, there is some interest out there. That's all.
Yeah, and too, I think that's one of the challenges, is making sure that we're communicating what we're doing with other people. Not everybody can sit down in front of a computer and attend these meetings, and I think maybe we could work with Corinne on figuring out a plan for that. It's going to be an interesting process just to get this all going. Thomas?
I'd like to make a motion to schedule our next meeting for the, double check myself here, February the 24th. It will be basically the same Wednesday following the second Tuesday, or I'm sorry, fourth Tuesday of next month. So basically it will follow town meetings day after every other week, or every other meeting. Is kind of my thinking. So that would give us a full month to prep all this and kind of organize ourselves and share information.
That is the next tree board meeting too.
Okay. And that's a no.
You might have to modify your time that you have it. You could do that.
Or you do another day. I just figured it'd be, day after town meeting, but no, if that's no good, then what's good?
I like it right after the town meeting. That's still fresh in our minds, and we've got some new information. So maybe I'll see if the tree board can do a 4 o'clock or a 6 o'clock or something. Maybe an early meeting. Unless we want to shoot for like 6, is that
fine with me?
Time is inconsequential. To me, the day I think is more important, as long as it's regular. We have a regular day.
Well, if you could change that to 6 o'clock, your motion to 6, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Therefore,
what date? The 24th?
February 24th. Yeah, and I guess it would be the 4th Wednesday of the month thereafter.
Okay. All right.
So I amend my motion to be that we should meet on the 4th Wednesday of the month at 6 o'clock, henceforth.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
Okay, good deal. So as far as what we want on the agenda, I think it would be working to prioritize our lists. And then Corinne, I think the only other thing is letting us know, see if we can figure out a time to do that tour with David. I don't know what his plans are, but I know you had something scheduled, I think for the 9th or something. I can't remember. It seems like you had a day.
We were talking about an early in the month date, but I need to circle back and confirm that that still works for him. So I'll work on that this end of this week and let you know when that is.
Okay, I would assume that would be a during the day thing for David.
Yeah.
Okay. Mondays and Fridays, I'm not
Right.
available.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, if you could just get in touch with us on that, or if you want to just, unless you have like an email list that you can just click on and send it all. Otherwise, I can send it out to everybody from there.
I do. I created a water advisory committee email list.
Great.
Okay. Am I missing anything? Let's see. Yeah, I think just my only concern from here would be to make sure that these are well advertised, well noticed, and just make sure we get the word out and as many people as possible attend. Thomas.
Yeah, and that on that note, we do have some, looks like, public attendees here. Did you want to take public comment?
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, anybody else out there have any thoughts? Anybody else want to speak? And Corinne, I assume you.
I have one question, or one comment. That has to do with the water sales down at the water barn. I do a little work for Pick and Mesa, and it's probably directed to Travis. And every time the town shuts down with water, we see a huge draw on the Pick and Mesa charge site over there. And it's gotten so bad lately that the Pick and Mesas were taking down 95,000 gallons in less than 24 hours. So we're having to shut those water sales off. One of the things I think, because these are really the only two places that sell water in the North Fork, I think if we could figure out some way to have some cooperation between Pick and Mesa, Johnny Martin runs a plant over there, and the town, if you're going to shut down, it would be nice to know we can ratchet supplies. Or so I think that's something, an area of immediate cooperation that we could do something for the valley right now.
Travis, do you want to just update him on where you are with that?
Sorry. I have just received a new fill station 2 days ago. So I'm in the process of getting it installed. And then once it is installed, there'll be a training day with the office and the company that we purchased it through. And hopefully we'll have it back online within the next couple of weeks, I'm hoping.
Good. Good. Thank you.
And anybody from the public want to speak? Looks like we have 3 others out there. I don't know how they have to signal that they're.
It's the raising hand, and I'll formalize the agenda a little bit better when we move forward. There you go. You have a hand up.
Ah.
So it's a phone number that ends in 4544.
Do I have to do
Hi.
anything? There we go. Hi.
I think I'm unmuted. Is it working? Yes, hi.
Yep.
Hi, this is Paige Smith at 215 Delta Avenue. And I just want to tell you all how pleased I am that you all have started your meetings, and the depth and breadth of knowledge is excellent. So mostly I'm just saying kudos, and I look forward to participating in future meetings. Thank you so much.
We
Paige.
look forward to having you around, Paige. Thanks. So nobody else? If nobody else has anything to say, I guess we can go ahead and adjourn. And I think I can just adjourn that, or do we want to vote to adjourn? How do we want to do that?
I think you can do it, right?
You can do it.
Well, then meeting's adjourned. Thank
Right
you
on.
all so much.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Thanks.
Don't
I've
hesitate to call.
I've got a question for Mike while you're on the line. Does Stuart Mesa purchase
Okay.
water from the town?
Stuart Mesa purchases water from the town, that's correct.
So all your water comes from the town?
All the water comes from the town.
Okay.
Yeah, we're plugged into one of their pipes and they got a meter on it. And
And you have 72 taps?
order of magnitude,
Okay. So we can talk about that later. Anyway, thanks.
I didn't
Okay.
even know that.
Great.
Bye, neighbors.
Bye.